pretty similar to Fallout 4, just recently Skyrim got a new update. As many of you probably know at this point, this was a new update adding in a plethora of new Creation Club content into the game. And before you scoff at that, it is actually kind of an interesting one in that this was without a doubt the largest Creation Club update for Skyrim. Both in that one of the new additions is definitely the biggest, containing the most content, but also separately it just has more content overall. It definitely took me more hours in a day to complete all of this for the video compared to any other batch of releases. And in this video, I'm more or less going to be going through each and everything added so you could decide for yourself, hey, do you want it, do you not want it, or just be informed as to the current state of Creation Club if you have no interest in paying for this content anyway. And I would actually say it's an interesting one because although no, we're not quite at DLC sized, we're the closest Creation Club has ever been. Granted, that's not saying a lot considering the size of some of the previous ones. It is progress. But either way, starting things off, let's first take a look at Dead Man's Dread. This one's actually a bit of a throwback. You're going to be tracking down a special ship, that known as Dead Man's Dread, who was captained, or at the very least at one point captained, by someone named Cyrus, the main character of the Elder Scrolls Redguard, aka who you played in that game. So like actually pretty much everything on this list or in this video, you're going to start this off with a quest. You kick it off by seeking out a note or kind of a diary, a short diary, from a dead pirate who is imprisoned. From there, it'll take you to a few locations. You're going to try and track down a special pirate ship, and you have to find a few clues first as to where exactly it is located. And during this, you're actually going to encounter and fight the Blackwater Brigands. That might sound familiar because they were actually back in Oblivion. And after taking out their captain, you actually do get the Blackwater Blade, which is going to be the first of the custom swords added in with this, although honestly it is one of the most generic looking swords, so it's not super special. From there, you're going to take a boat to Blackbone Isle. This is a totally new world space, although a very simple one. After arriving, you'll be on a little beach, but the main point of attraction is in the cave right next to this beach where you'll actually find Dead Man's Dread, as well as a skeletal crew that you'll have to clear out. There will be a bit of a battle here, as well as some ghosts that will pop out. You'll have to fend your way through, but then you do actually have access to the ship, and it largely is the completion of the quest. Although, something to note, and I don't really want to go too in detail because I don't want to spoil anything, all along the way, you actually do get quite a bit of lore or backstory around these pirates, but also what happened after the events of Redguard. So what actually happened to Cyrus and his crew? Where did he go after Redguard? If you never played the game, it's just an interesting story, but if you did play that game, that is a pretty cool gesture. From there, part of the appeal of this one is definitely the new equipment you're going to get, and outside of that first sword, pretty much all of this will be found on the ship. You'll be able to find Cyrus's outfit and his sword. The outfit itself is pretty high quality, it definitely looks quite unique, and it's exactly what he wore in that previous game, and the sword is kind of a stereotypical pirate sword, or what my schema for a pirate sword is at least, although separately in this second part is actually pretty easy to miss. There are several other outfits scattered all throughout this, but they're integrated in a fairly natural way. You'll find some just in some of the cabinets or cupboards on the ship itself, others will be on some of those ghosts or other enemies you encounter on the ship, and there are several of these added in. I counted 4 in total, including a captain's uniform that actually has a couple of different variants. But again, be careful because Cyrus's outfit is really the only one you have to find through this. You could very easily miss the rest. And these definitely do look cool, nearly all of them having kind of a pirate or seafarer theme, although separate from all of those, you also then do get this ship as a player home. I don't know if I missed something or if it's just handled weirdly, but after completing the quest to actually clear through this ship, you'll just have a courier come up to you at some point and be like, hey, make sure you go clean that ship, which starts a new quest that just involves you walking back to the ship. You don't actually have to do anything, just walk back there. I don't know why it has this separate section. It doesn't actually unlock anything seemingly. You just now technically own the ship. And this actually is a pretty cool and impractical player home. The little cove it is located in is definitely well designed. There's a little skull on the wall in one section, and the ship itself looks cool. The interior has pretty much everything you'll need and then some. There's multiple bedrooms, a kitchen, as well as a lot of other just storage space for you to take advantage of. On the ship itself are all of the various crafting tables you could want or need, but the only downside with this one is it's really impractical in the sense that, one, it's kind of convoluted. It's a dungeon doubling as a player home, and it has several load screens to get to your bedroom, so that is not ideal, but even further, there's no direct fast travel point to this one. So the quickest way to actually get here is to fast travel to this new area from Skyrim, go through the loading screen for the cave, go through the loading screen for your door, then run all the way through your ship to wherever you want it to go. So it's kind of lengthy, it's not easy to get in and out of. And even further, when you want to get back to Skyrim, you actually have to click on that little boat. There is no manual fast travel back. So overall, it's an interesting one, but definitely on the pricier side, at least in my opinion, after playing it. And I would certainly love some mods or updates to make the accessibility of this new and actually pretty cool player home just a lot higher. But next up, we do have the big boy of the bunch, the single biggest thing to ever come to Creation Club, both for Skyrim and Fallout 4, that with Saints and Seducers. This is actually a pretty big new creation, and it has a pretty big price tag to go along with it, at 1,500 points or roughly $15. And that is approaching DLC prices. It actually is DLC price for some DLCs for some Bethesda games. Although this actually adds in a lot of content. There's a ton of stuff on the back end, a ton of rewards you do get through this, but the way it's delivered is through a variety of different quests. Unlike many of these other mods, this actually technically does have several different quests with it, although they're all kind of intertwined, or some of the side ones are relatively simple. Although the main one here is going to be dealing with the Saints and the Seducers, two separate raider factions that have entered into the region. The Saints and Seducers are funded by the same person who's looking for some very specific stuff. Basically, as merchants pass through the path of the Saints or the Seducers, they'll kind of take a few items from them but let them on their way, and they're being paid by a third party to turn some of this stuff in or look for some specific things. But they also hate each other because, one, they're competition, but two, they just hate each other. So as you start off some of the quests, you're going to have to deal with this threat, clear out camps for both the Saints and the Seducers separately. After you clear out the first, there's going to be a second one that's a bit higher level. It includes a little bit more lore or backstory as to what's going on here. After that, there's going to be a final boss and new custom dungeon. I don't want to spoil too much, but this actually is pretty interesting. There are several new NPCs found within this, and then from there you can take down the final boss, which again, I don't want to spoil too much. I honestly don't even want to show the boss fight, and you get some cool rewards as a result of that. Although totally separate, also while you're doing all of this, you will get several side quests pretty organically. Like after clearing out one of the camps for the Saints or the Seducers, you might find a note that will lead you on a separate path. Typically these side quests are just go here, talk to this person, and either kill them or trade with them or ask them to teach you something. They're relatively simple, not quite as in-depth as the main quest, but speaking overall, all of these quests together are several hours of new content, and this brings quite a bit of lore with it. There's a lot of notes to read that give you context to this entire situation, and some of these are actually fairly long notes, journals or books that contain pages and pages of lore, so it's not like it's just a quick breeze through it. And there's even a couple of choices scattered throughout that may have some slightly different results. So as far as the quests go, they're definitely interesting. Again, it is several hours of new content, but of course, as with most of Creation Club stuff, there isn't really new dialogue. There is dialogue within this one, but it's just reusing some of the existing dialogue, so it sounds, you know, mostly good, but you can tell they're reusing dialogue made originally for something else, and the bulk of the story is told through notes, as with, again, most of Creation Club. But where this one does become particularly interesting is in that it's basically this elaborate way to give you a ton of content. So with Saints and Seducers, you're going to get 4 totally new sets of items, so that's a full set of armor as well as 8 weapons to go along with it. You're going to get 2 new followers that are very simple. It's actually one of the new NPC types, and it's kind of like a dog-esque follower. You will earn the ability to summon the Saints and Seducers, so if you want to have them fighting on your side from time to time, you can do that. As well as there's 2 new artifacts, which are very special weapons that you earn throughout these quests, and they actually do have particularly unique looks or styles. That's not quite everything, but that's almost everything. There's some other new things you can find that are pretty cool, but I'll leave some surprises out there. There's also a variety of miscellaneous items that will now act as new crafting ingredients all throughout this. Some of these for the new items I didn't talk about, most of these for the new weapons and armors. But speaking of weapons and armors, there is so much added in with this, it's almost hard to talk about. So first, the obvious one, there's going to be a new golden and dark line of weapons for the Saints and the Seducers. And these honestly look pretty cool. Again, this is a fully fledged set of new items. So you get that full set of armor and a shield, and then all of the various weapons you have from all of the other weapon sets you could find in Skyrim already. There's a lot of content here. Too much content for me to cover or talk about individually. This would would be an hour-long video if I talked about every sword added in with this. And it includes even some of the more minor things like daggers, new bows, and new arrow types with quivers to go along with them. And what makes these feel particularly cool is as you're doing this quest, you just are gradually introduced to these as you clear out these saints and seducers encampments, because oftentimes they will be using a variety of these items, although you also get the ability to smith these just by completing the quests. So that is one side of the coin, but from some of the side quests you also gain access to what I think is the much cooler Amber and Maddened armor sets and weapon sets. The Amber set is kind of what you'd expect. It looks like Amber, kind of similar to like the glass set or the ebony set you could find in Skyrim already. It's fully fledged and does have a very distinctive and unique look. I think it looks cool. It is very orange and I like orange. You can find several unique designs all throughout it, but I gotta say, after using these all, the one to really blow it out of the park is the Madden set of armor and weapons, as some of these look particularly awesome. They have really cool designs on them. This is going to be thematically relevant to the quest overall, so I don't want to talk about too much to avoid spoilers, but hopefully just some of the visuals you're seeing in the background speaks for themselves. These are just cool looking swords. They really stand out. They feel unique and distinctively different than some of the stuff we have already in Skyrim. It's not to say all of the other sets are bad per se. I think they're just fine, while this one is actually pretty good. If the Madden set was a free mod on its own, it would have quite a few downloads. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, you do have those two more unique artifacts that you get at more special times, but all in all, there's a lot in the way of weapons and armors. Again, it's like too much to show you comprehensively in this video. I gave you a glance at everything, but to really go over everything or have close-up shots like this on everything would be basically impossible, or this would be a 45-minute long video. And overall, independent of price, this is a really cool new add-on, and I feel like it's something that even mod authors should really look at. Oftentimes, I feel like with mods, whether it be for Fallout or Skyrim, it's either really a quest mod or an item mod. But Bethesda here, I think, did a really good job at making that more of a hybrid. There was quests, interesting story, and backstory, but then you're left with a ton of weapons for you to enjoy and use. This could have just definitely been a weapon pack on its own, but I think adding those quests made it a lot more interesting and did definitely take it to the next level. Now, did it take it to the level where it is worth $15? I don't know about that. That's a lot of money. I would definitely say it's on the overpriced side, but it's pretty in line with the rest of Creation Club. Most of the stuff on Creation Club is what I would say is overpriced. Although at the same time, I would argue none of the content here was bad. I enjoyed pretty much all of it, and you are left with a ton to use or play with. And this is a bit of a more unique one because although there is a lot of weapon mods for Skyrim, not so many actually will have this much content in a single download. But there definitely are some that do. It's just going to be fewer options. So if you exhausted all those, you want to try something different, and you think the $15 is at least somewhat reasonable, then yeah, download this one. It's definitely going to be a lot of fun. Or what I'm sure many of you will end up doing, you can always wait for a sale in the future. Alright, so those are the two really big ones. Although next up, we do have the Grey Cow returns. This being a long-awaited new addition to Skyrim, as it is adding in something that appeared in the Creation Club trailer back in 2017. It will bring the Grey Cow back into Skyrim. This was an item that appeared in some of the previous Elder Scrolls games, and surprise, this also is going to have a quest to go along with it. And I gotta say, out of everything on this list, the $2.50 that this one costs definitely gave the most value. The quest is actually not long, but it's not short either. It's not like a one go to this location and you're done. It'll take you to several locations. You'll have several different NPC interactions and notes to read, and all the while you're learning a bit of backstory around the Grey Cow and the Grey Fox who once wore this. But for the $2.50, there's definitely a good amount of quests there. I'm actually surprised how long the quest was now reading the price after the fact. But after that, what you're going to be left with is the Grey Cow. This will give you a couple of buffs in game, increase your carry weight, improve your sneak ability, but the two real unique features are, one, as you wear the cowl, you actually can see outlines of other living creatures, and that is very specific. It doesn't include undead, machines, or Daedra, so it is literally only living creatures. But the unique feature is, as you wear this, you take on the role of the Grey Fox. So firstly, that means that any guard that sees you will be immediately aggroed, but separately, if you commit a bunch of crimes as the Grey Fox, then go into a quiet corner, take off the mask, and walk out, nobody will be aggroed to you anymore as far as regular townsfolk, or even the guards, as long as they don't see you take off the mask. In past games, this gave you several unique interactions with just regular people people throughout the game. In Skyrim, you have some unique interactions in the quest, but as you actually have the mask after the fact, it is just a mask. The only thing it'll really do is change your identity to the Grey Fox or not. I couldn't find any unique dialogue, and really it's just a handy tool for thieves in the game. It makes committing crimes in general quite a bit easier. So this is one of those ones that actually has big competition, but the Creation Club release is so small and honestly so cheap compared to everything else that they're honestly not even in the same playing field. The other is a fully fledged quest mod. This is one relatively minor quest and one item that has some unique characteristics. Then we do have Hendrheim, which is a new player home mod added in with this patch. So this one actually starts off in, I think, a pretty cool way. A courier delivers you a note, which is actually a major theme throughout all of these releases, and more or less there is a warrior who owns this player home. She's like, hey, it's been passed down throughout my family for generations, all warriors, but I'm tired now, so I want to fight somebody, and if you could beat me, you could get the player home. So she knows only a true warrior will take it over, which again is very simple, but also kind of cool. If you win the fight, and hopefully you do, it was relatively easy, you do get the player home for yourself. And this is actually a really cool player home. I think for one, it's just the wide open design. There's actually really only 2 rooms for this one is good. Like in Skyrim, I feel like half the time I ever go into a player home, I'm just sprinting in there to get something real quick. There are other times where I want to go slow and take it in, but this allows you to just get in and get out because it's an open design. You can jump around to wherever you need to get. There are little corners that are appropriately themed, so it might be food or something else related, and all around it is a pretty cool layout. But also all throughout this, you're going to find a lot of design choices that are reflective of a warrior lineage. Many things all on the walls, many display cases and mannequins for you to put your own weapons and armors on all throughout the main part of this house. In the back room, there's kind of a multi-bedroom study that is actually pretty well designed. It definitely looks lived in, and warriors weren't known for being the neatest. And overall, I think between the high ceilings and open design, it actually is a really nice layout. That was without a doubt my favorite part. In the basement, there is a ton more in the way of display cases and armor cases. Some of these are for general items, other ones are specifically for unique or special items in Skyrim, so you could show off your feats or your masks here. And then separately on the outside part, there actually is the smithing and crafting station. Although, even though I think this one is really cool, I really do like that layout, at $4, is it that much cooler than some of the free alternatives? There is a lot of great player homes out there. I think it's going to be pretty subjective. I, for one, actually never even used player home mods, so this definitely wouldn't be something for me. And it's not like this is doing anything crazy or totally revolutionary that makes it really stand out from the rest. Next up, we do have Goblins. As the title of this one suggests, it is going to add in new goblins into Skyrim. There's going to be a short little quest taking you into a dungeon where you'll find these guys residing. The quest on this one was without a doubt the shortest out of all of them. Here you'll have to fight off these goblins. There's no other real interactions, but even further, you will encounter the goblin leader, who does carry a unique weapon. Even though this quest was the shortest, after getting there and actually reading some of the lore or journals, it probably is the best written. The context as to why and how that person became a bandit leader and what happened with the quest overall is actually pretty funny. In the middle of the room, you will find a fighting pit where one goblin does live as many others have fallen. This goblin's going to be named Go or Gog, I don't really know how you pronounce that. None of the goblins speak English, unfortunately, and basically Go is available as a new companion for you, which is the major takeaway from this quest. From there, you can actually do a couple of things. One, you can use this new unique weapon. It's a staff with a goblin head on the top, and I actually think the design of that is also pretty cool. And as you fire it at enemies, it'll have a connecting beam effect, so you can hit multiple enemies at once and stun them. Go himself looks pretty cool. He actually has options to change his outfit, so you could equip several different helmets and several different armors. There's no unlocking or anything like that. It's just a dialogue option to cycle through these. And separately, he actually is a companion that can fight with you. He has this special staff that you can't get yourself, and you can't actually know why you can't get yourself. Again, the goblins don't speak English. So I don't know if it's just my difficulty or my game. This guy sucks in combat. Granted, I am on a very high level character, so maybe he just doesn't scale appropriately, but he was literally getting like one shot by everything. Granted, he also did one shot most other enemies, or at least some of the lower to mid level ones, but almost every time I tried to use him, he was downed pretty quickly. But overall, as just a mule or death fodder, he is a pretty cool companion. They definitely have a cool design and look to them, and that unique staff definitely does have a pretty cool design. Now, is all of this $4 cool? No, I would say this is more in line with typical Creation Club or what we've kind of become accustomed to over the past couple of years. If this was a mod, I would love it, but for $4, there's some better alternatives out there. But then last but not least, we have two of the smaller new releases that are only running 100 credits each. First off, we do have the Ebony Alternate Armor. It's a super simple one. It's going to add in this armor. You'll have a short quest to go and get this one. Separately, you also do have the steel alternate armor. Both of these are heavy armors that were originally created for the Elder Scrolls Blades, but are now ported over to Skyrim. With normal use in the game, I would say the armors overall look fine, but as you actually do some of these panning shots with the free cam, I feel like you could definitely tell they were made for a mobile game. They don't look up to the graphic quality or fidelity of some of these other armors, even some of the other ones I showed you earlier in this video. I feel like these fall into that weird category where it's only 100 points. I'm sure many people, if you make even one other purchase, will just have points laying around, so it's an easy thing to kind of dump those excess points on. Now, is it worth spending $8 on the smallest point bundle to get this? Nope, I would say almost absolutely not. And of course, there's a wide variety of free armor mods that look a lot better than this and add in a lot more functionality. Although it is definitely worth mentioning with these, the quests for them were actually longer than I expected. It wasn't just go to one location and fight somebody and you got it. There was actually like 2 or 3 locations you had to go to real quick and do a quick thing. They were still very short, but I was kind of surprised they added in so many steps with these. But otherwise, yeah, taking that all together, that is a look and a recap of all of the new things to come to Skyrim's Creation Club this time around. Overall, I would say, again, it is probably the best release, and it is the largest release, which I think those two kind of go hand in hand. I feel like a lot of the content does fall to that Creation Club curse of just being too much money when you have so many good alternatives in the way of mods, or alternatively with the awesome DLCs that came to Skyrim once upon a time. It does make that justification a bit harder. But even with sales, I could see a lot of people picking up some of the stuff in this batch. The content itself was pretty cool. If we ignore the price for a second, a lot of the stuff I had a lot of fun playing. It's armors or weapons I definitely will use after this purchase, and especially with some of the larger ones included with this, it's quite a bit of content. It will definitely give you several hours of new things to do in Skyrim. Although overall, I would actually love to hear from all of you in the comments down below. Really 2 specific questions. 1, do you think this stuff is worth it? I think most people will universally say probably not, no. But separate from that, what do you guys think about the quality of the releases this time around, including the largest release with Saints and Seducers? I like the trend Bethesda has been making towards larger things in Creation Club. I feel like oftentimes that makes the price, although still kind of high, more justifiable. But either way, with all of that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Separately, I'm actually going to have a Skyrim mods video coming in the next few days. There's been a lot of cool stuff on the free side also. But with that being said, again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.